In this video, we're going to cover the basics of vectors in C++. If you haven't watched the previous video on arrays, I strongly recommend that you watch that video first, because it sets up some of the concepts that we're going to continue to cover in this video. But just as a quick recap, an array allows us to group multiple variables into a single data type. One downside of using arrays is that once you set their size, they are fixed and cannot be resized or have values appended to them. So instead, we're going to replace this array here called notes with a vector of the same name. To do this, we're going to type stud vector. With a vector, we only need to specify the type. We do not need to give it a size. So in this case, we'll call it int, and we'll give this vector a name, notes. And again, we're going to give it the same initial values as we did before, and now we're going to delete our notes array, and now we've got a notes vector. So let's verify this program works as it did before. And hopefully you heard the same sequence be played. One benefit of using a vector is, let's say we now want to increase the size of this, i.e. we want to add more notes into our sequence. We can do that quite easily by typing notes.pushback, and let's add a few more events to this. Like so. And let's just play this, make sure it works. Cool. A few more things you can do with vectors is we can also remove all the elements from the vector. So if we go down here, I'm going to copy this same playback loop twice, and then between the two I'm going to say notes.clear. Let's run this. So we should only have had the sequence once, because when it comes to this running it the second time, because I've called notes.clear, the vector has no size, as there's no elements in it, and so the second playback loop will not do anything. So we can also then add some more notes to this. So once our vector's been cleared, we can then fill it back up with some new values. So let's do again notes.pushback, and this time I'll go for something an octave lower. I'll just push back 3 notes of kind of any arbitrary notes here, and I'll change this to be slightly longer so we can hear it. Cool. One more thing to note about vectors is that when you declare them by default, like this for example, values has no size. So by definition, when you create an empty vector, it has no size, it has nothing in it. So we use the method, we use this thing called pushback, and this essentially will increase the size of the vector by 1 and add a value to the end of it. So if I add 10 to this values vector here, the vector has a size of 1 and 1 element. And that element, of course, is in position 0. So just like an array, if we want to access the first value in our vector, we would do value 0. This would give us the first value. If you want to remove an element in a vector, you can do values.popback, and this will remove the last element that's in a vector. Doing more complex operations with vectors will be explored in later videos. That's it for this video.